So for lesson 5, we're going to talk about the volume of prisms and cylinders. So we're moving into the measurement of three-dimensional shapes. So rather than define prism and cylinder right away, I'll define them as we use them through the lesson. So the volume is the amount of space that a substance or object occupies or that is enclosed within a container. So we're just looking at how much space is within the shape. And the volume of any prism is calculated by the area of the base multiplied by the length. The area of the base multiplied by the length. Now you might be more familiar with this as length times width times height, but that only works for a rectangular prism. With a rectangular prism, it works because depending on how you rotate the figure, any face could be the base. So if we look at this and we say that the base, let's say that this face here is going to become the base. This is the length. This is the width. This is the height. If I do the area of the base here, area of base is length times height. And then you multiply by the other dimension. So then volume is length times height, which is the area of the base, times the width. And you'll notice it's the same thing. And that's specific to rectangular prisms. So length times width times height only works for rectangular prisms. So let's calculate this. So we're going to say the area of the base, in this case, was length times height, and the length was 20 centimeters, and the height was 8 centimeters. So that's going to be 160 centimeters squared. Then we're going to calculate the volume, which is the area of the base times, in this case, the width, which is going to be 160 centimeters times 9. 160 times 9 is 1,440 centimeters. But let's think about the units. If the area is two-dimensional, what is the volume? I've multiplied centimeters squared. Let's do the units over here in another color. So what I've done is volume is the area of the base is centimeters squared, and I've multiplied it by another centimeters. Now pretend that's x. Pretend that is x squared times x. Remember back to unit 1, we know that the exponent rules tell us that that is x cubed, which means that volume should be centimeters cubed, because the exponent rules still apply even when we're talking about units. So of course, this should be centimeters cubed, because volume is three-dimensional. Let's look at our next shape. This is a triangular prism. Triangular prism, because the base is a triangle. So I'm going to highlight the base here. That's the base. Of course, there's two of them that are the same. That's what makes it a prism, as opposed to a pyramid, like we're going to look at over the next couple lessons. So if we have a triangular prism, and the volume is the area of the base times the length, here is the height of the face. So I'm going to put height triangle. This is the base of the triangle. This is the length there. How do we find the area of a triangle? Is 1/2 base times height. That's the triangular face's area. Then we're going to multiply that by the length. Let's substitute in. So we've got 1/2, the base is 8, the height was 3, and the length was 12. 8 divided by 2 is going to give us 4 times 3 times 12. And 4 times 3 is 12 times 12, which is 144. We've got, if you'll notice here, centimeters, 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 centimeters cubed. Now, what about a cylinder? A cylinder is really a prism. It's just a prism where it has a circular base. So when we say the area of the base here, we're talking about the circle, that, and the volume of the cylinder is still the area of the base times the length. Just in this case, length and height are the same thing. If the cylinder was lying on its side, you would say that's the length. It's just perception. So the area of the base is what? It's the area of a circle. Do you remember what the area of a circle is? Pi r squared. So the volume of the cylinder is pi r squared times, in this case we can use h for height. So let's calculate. Pi, what is the radius, is 2.2 squared, and height is 5.0. Let's calculate that out. 2.2 squared times 5 is 24.2 times, notice I'm using the pi button, you're supposed to be doing that, 76.027, and we have 1 decimal point in both of them, so I'm going to round to 1 decimal point, 76.0. It's in centimeters. It's a volume, so it's cubed. And that's how you do any and all prisms and cylinders. Now, what you might run into is a prism that's maybe pentagonal. So let me see if I can draw a pentagonal prism. A pentagon. Come on, you have to admit that is impressive. That's a pentagonal prism. And to find the volume of that, you do the area of the base times the length. And remember, we learned in the little extra lesson that was attached to 4.4 that you can find the area of any regular polygon by creating triangles from the center, finding the area of each triangle, and adding them all together. Once you have the area of the base, multiply them by the length, and you're golden. Good luck.